Lessons from Easter on Inspired Leadership is Mr. Samuel Bakutana, who is a leadership coach. Now, he's certified executive coach. He's a leadership consultant. He's also an inspirational speaker, but he has also authored over 13 books in his lifetime so far. And so this morning we want to understand from his perspective what is leadership, especially in the wake of a new Easter without masks. We get to unveil our leadership skills once again in the way we actually manage life, and especially from family into businesses, into work, into social life, etc. Good morning to you, Mr. Samuel Bakutana.
Good morning,
How
Priscilla.
are you?
I am inspired.
Rather sharp for a Monday, an Easter Monday.
Why not? Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we want to dive into the leadership subject. In the wake of Easter, we all know that Easter literally is the ultimate symbol of love. It's the ultimate symbol of hope. It's the ultimate symbol for a new life. And so we need to rejuvenate some of these things that are inside us for a new start, especially when it comes to leadership, right from the national level down to self level.
Exactly.
But how do you get interested in the subject of leadership as a person yourself?
Oh, wow. You know, I don't know whether you got interested in the subject of leadership or the subject of leadership got interested in me. Because as I was growing up, I was always in different positions of responsibility. Right from when I was in, I think consciously I remember the first time I took on a particular position of responsibility in public domain was when I was in primary 2. And ever since then, there hasn't passed any single year when I haven't been in a position of leadership, either through election or appointment, or I simply emerge because there is an environment that requires somebody to take charge, and I come up. So after many years of doing that and always really succeeding at it, in many ways, I realized there was something to do with leadership concerning my life. I realized I wasn't just about to be a leader, but I was supposed to be making leaders, and leaders who are three things: who are transformational, who are exemplary and authentic in their leadership. So that's why I'm saying I don't know whether I got interested in leadership or leadership got interested in me. It was a discovery after a long journey of simply living life. That's what I can say. Okay,
so when we talk about inspired leadership that you have stated, what exactly are you referring to? What's the difference between it and general leadership?
Well, first of all, let's go to the etymology of these things. When you say leadership, what are we talking about? I always want to make things simple. I have often said in many different audiences around the world that mere professionals complicate the simple, but true leaders simplify the complicated. So when we say leadership in simple terms, it's that ability to move people and institutions from here to there. That's my simple way of putting it.
All right.
And when I say here, I'm talking about the current state. I'm talking about the reality where we are now. Where are we? How many people do we have in this place? How much money do we have on our account? Where are we? What's the state of roads, and so on and so forth? Current reality. Moving people from here to there. There is the vision. There is the image of the future. When I say there, I mean where we want to go. So in simple terms for me, leadership is having the ability to move people, move institutions from here where we are in the current state to there where we all would like to be in future.
All right.
When we,
as you continue, we have had an issue in terms of leadership. You do have a leader who is aware of the situation but does not have the direction to move it to where it needs to then move on. You've had situations where you have a leader but they're not transformational. You've had leaders but they're not relational. You've had leaders but they're not exemplary. How do you then get to have this one leader adopt all these other tools to be able to have an inspirational leader taking on what you've talked about, moving here to there?
Well, it begins with them realizing there is a problem. You see, when you don't know you have a disease, you won't look for a doctor. You won't look for medicine.
Or if you live in denial of the disease.
Especially if you feel that the nature of the problem you have is not fit for public consumption, so you go to the doctor, and because your disease is in maybe a place where you wouldn't want anybody to check, and then they say, what's your challenge? And you say, I have headache. They give you Panadol. You won't be healed. So it begins with this person you are talking about, that leader, to realize there is a challenge, there is a capacity gap, there is a capability gap that they need to bridge. And once they realize that, then they can be able to move out there and seek for solutions. That's where they will meet a certified executive coach like Bakutana. That's where they will meet a leadership consultant. That's where they will go for a training. That's where they will read a book on leadership. That's when they will get a mentor, and so on and so forth. So now the other bit of inspired. I've now talked about leadership, ability to move people from here to there, in simple terms. Now, the inspired bit of it comes in. Many times you hear people being called or calling themselves motivational speaker, and so on and so forth. Many people call me that. I don't call myself that. I am an inspirational speaker. There is a difference between inspiring and motivating. Motivating is much more short term. It's much more of give you a short term pump up. You know, you hear somebody stand up and say, believe that you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And then goes away. And you have that being revved up for a minute or two. The following day they meet you, you are again...
You're back to zero.
You're back to zero.
Okay.
But to be inspired comes from the Latin word, inspire comes from the Latin word inspiratio, which really means in breath, in spirit. So somebody who inspires you goes beyond your mind, your brain, goes beyond giving you information. He gives you an impartation that goes to the innermost essence of who you really are. So therefore, an inspired leader is this person who is internally powered, looking forward to empowering others externally by getting it from who they really are, from the internal, the inward essence of who they are, their own existence. It's not an external thing. The external thing is the motivation, but the inspiration comes from who you really are, and then you put it out there to empower somebody to make them better.
Okay, I hope that by the time you go 6 feet under, you've become a pastor, and as one of the things you will be very good in the church setting.
And you know why? You know why? Because most of them take on this air of motivation and the air of inspiration.
Okay.
Because most of them indeed are inspired, I believe. Because they are getting things from the internal. It's not external motivation. It is internal inspiration.
Speaking of church, of course, we're in the season of Easter. Today being Easter Monday. Yes. We're looking at the whole story of the death and resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. And in this picture of the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, we see him to be the exemplary, inspiring leader that we want to emulate in one way or another. Can this be referred to as the case of inspired leadership? And what are those particular things that we can pick out from the life, the walk, and the sacrifice of Christ that we can adapt as everyday Christians, everyday people, actually?
Thank you for that question. That's a brilliant question. I'm hearing you using some two words concurrently. I would like to point them out and separate them. Inspiring leader and inspired leader. I would like to propose that those are two different people.
Okay.
You can be inspiring when you are not yet inspired.
Yourself.
Interestingly.
That's true.
Yet you can't be inspired without inspiring somebody.
Hence the talk of you walk the talk, but don't do what I do, but do what I...
In a way.
Something like that, yeah.
Because when you say, Priscilla, when you say, Jack inspired me, meaning that he was inspiring towards you, it could be because of the story he told about his journey. It could be because of the things he was doing and you watched them from a distance and you felt like, wow, I think there is something I could also put my hands to and make it possible. So he inspired you with his story, with his results, with his fruitfulness, with his productivity. But maybe he is not yet really inspired within him. So these are two different things. You can be inspiring to others who are watching you, yet you are not yet really inspired. You are only motivated externally by carrots dangling before you. But you can't be internally inspired already without inspiring people around you, because it will be oozing onto the outside. So let's get to the question that you asked about Jesus. Definitely that was a case of inspired leadership. 311, top notch, first class, real deal. not a fake.
Yeah.
Because when you look at inspired leadership, I think of three things. Number one, to be an inspired leader, you must have discovered purpose. The reason for your existence, you must have known the why. And the little or the much I know about Jesus Christ is that he came when his purpose was clear to him.
Already
He
defined.
said, I came so that I may destroy the works of the enemy. He says, I came to seek the lost. His purpose was clear. He came when he had a clear purpose. So indeed, it becomes a case of inspired leadership because he knew why he had come. You cannot be an inspired leader if you haven't discovered your strong why. Because you see, the greatest tragedy, Priscilla, is not death. It's a life lived without purpose. The greatest failure is not when you are trying to hit a target and you don't get to it. The greatest failure is actually succeeding in a wrong assignment. Inspired leadership is about discovering the real assignment of your life, and then you pursue it relentlessly without apology. So when I look at the life of Christ, I see that he had purpose. And secondly, which is quite related to number one, is the issue of problem. Recently, I was speaking at a Rotary Club, and I was talking about how to be a creative hub of solutions. And one of the things I talked about was that you need to be able to define your problem.
Okay.
Now, when I asked, maybe I could ask you, let me kindly put you on the spot right now, Priscilla, warm up in your chair. Yeah. What would you say is your problem? Currently, what's your problem?
Hunger. Hunger right
you know,
now.
And that's a good typical answer, you know. Whenever you say, what's your problem? Somebody says, money. You ask another one, what's your problem? My children, I have a teenager who is causing me headache, okay? You ask another one, what's your problem? My relationship, that boyfriend is causing me trouble. Oh, what's your problem? My staff are not cooperative.
Yeah.
That's the typical answer. But I want us to change that. That's not your problem. That's simply a challenge you're dealing with. That's simply a storm you're going through. That's simply something that is hindering you. It's a roadblock.
Yeah.
Your real problem is what you were born to solve. So now, like for me, my problem is poor leadership. That's my problem. And when I say my problem is poor leadership, I don't mean that I'm a poor leader. I mean that I was born to solve the problem of poor leadership.
Okay.
Whenever I close my eyes and look into the future and I'm not asleep, I see an army of empowered leaders who are busy transforming families, institutions, communities, and nations. Then when I open my eyes, it's difficult to see them.
Yes.
So I hit the road to go and make them. It's the problem I was born to solve. It's the problem I am solving. So when I look at the life of Christ, I see that being clear as a key case study of inspired leadership. He knew the problem he had come to deal with.
Right.
He had come to hit on the head of the enemy of mankind. He had come to hit on the head of the accuser of all human beings. So he had defined his problem. And as I was preparing to come and share this, I had to go to that very amazing book that I personally read quite a number of times. And in Luke chapter 4, verse 18, he says, the Spirit is upon me, he has anointed me to, then he gives a list of the description of the problem he had come to solve.
Preach the good news.
Preach the good news to the poor, mend the broken hearts, proclaim healing, and so on and so forth. Release the people in prisons. So he had his problem well defined.
Breakdown of his problem, yes.
You get it? So you cannot say you are an inspired leader when you're busy. One of my mentors many years ago told me something that has reminded me of this.
What was that?
He said, always know what you're targeting so that you don't become like a madman who throws stones at random and whatever he hits, he claims that that was his target. No, first show us the target, then start shooting. So you can't say you are an inspired leader when you don't know the problem you are shooting at. That clarity.
Okay.
And the third thing, maybe the last thing about that, is the point of passion. Inspired leadership is passion driven. In fact, I always tell people that if you are an inspired leader, be careful, you may die young. You know why? Because you are so filled with passion, and when a passion lacks control, it kills.
How so?
The moment you don't control passion, it can easily kill, because you will be at a supersonic speed. And you know, when agility does not have discernment in it, it becomes a suicidal weapon instead of it being a transformational tool. So when I look at the life of Christ, I see passion. No wonder even some movies about him are called The Passion of Christ.
The Passion of Christ.
So look at those three things that I've just talked about. The issue of purpose, defining why you're here. The issue of problem, realizing what you were born to solve. And the issue of passion, being internally driven. That is 311, the description of inspired leadership.
Okay, right. And that is exactly how you become an inspired leader. Find out the why as to why you are on earth, basically your purpose. And then make sure that you get to find out the original problem that you were set out on earth to solve. And if you find that, add it with passion, I'm pretty sure you are good to go to be an inspired leader, not inspiring leader. A big difference that has been brought to clarity here by Samuel Bakutana. As we continue, what are the qualities that you can use, for example, to notice that this is being led in an inspired way or just motivational way? Because so many people have gone motivational way, followed motivational speakers, and boom, they've hit the wall and they've gone back to ground zero. They're the same tomorrow when they wake up. There's no difference. So what are some of those distinctive elements that people should actually watch out for to then follow the inspired leader rather than the inspiring leader?
And just as a way of a disclaimer, there is nothing wrong following an inspiring leader. In fact, you are an inspired leader so that you can become an inspiring person. If you are inspired, you will definitely inspire others as a matter of, as a result, as an outcome.
All right.
So there is nothing wrong with following an inspiring leader. After all, if he's not inspiring you, what is causing you to follow them? John Maxwell says if you claim to be leading but nobody is following, you are basically taking a walk. You are not leading. So there has to be somebody following, and that somebody follows because they've been inspired by something. So how do you tell the difference? Look at impact versus power. Real inspired leaders are transformational in outlook. They want to, in other words, they want to make things really better. They want to make people's lives really better. You see, there are different, let me call them levels of leadership. There are different levels of leadership. To begin with, there is positional leadership, whereby somebody is focusing on the rights that he has by virtue of the position he occupies. He says, hey, I am the producer of the program, listen to me. Now, when you hear somebody speak like that, they are still at level 1 in leadership. The level 2 is permission, whereby you focus on the relationships you have built with the people you are leading, and as a result, in their hearts, they have given you permission to lead them. Level 3 is production, where you are producing results. So people follow you, they allow you to influence them, because when they see what you've done for the institution, what you've done for the organization, they see a change you have created. Level 4 is what I will call people development, whereby you are reproducing other leaders. And level 5 is personhood. You stand for something transformational. So real inspired leadership operates at that level of focusing on the impact that you can have, not the power you want to maintain, not the prestige you want to have, not the wealth you want to build. That is critical. So those inspired leaders are focused on creating a change. Creating a change, not just a change, but a positive change. Also, the other quick quality I can think about is people empowerment. A real inspired leader uses power not to disempower, but to empower others.
Okay.
Not to even look powerful, but to empower others. So if you want to find an inspired leader, look for somebody who is really focusing on empowering people
Others.
through many different ways.
All right.
That is an inspired leader.